Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Russell, and I have the pleasure of serving as president of the Public Relations Society of America, or PRSA, Chicago chapter. I'm thrilled to welcome everybody to Celebrities One-on-One, connecting famous people with famous brands, where we are inviting you to gain valuable insights into the strategies, challenges, and opportunities involved in building impactful partnerships for your brand. This program, of course, is sponsored by Celebrity Focus. And also, we also want to thank our major chapter partners, which include the Grossman Group, Zeno, Edelman, Celebrity Focus, AbbVie, Notified, Current Global, MSL, Forum Media Group, News Exposure, DePaul University School of Communications, and Manny's. Thank you so much for your chapter support. I also have the pleasure of introducing Rick Backrack of Celebrity Focus. He is let me do this correctly. Rick is El Jefe, chairman, the mayor, El Presidente. He's the founder, president, and CEO of Celebrity Focus. He's been involved with the creation of more than 4,400 connections between celebrities and brands, and you name it, he's done it. Endorsements, spokespersons for PR and advertising, licensing, promotional and educational campaigns, appearances, hospitality, keynote speakers, and other engagement where fame and communication skills provide significant impact. Welcome, Rick. Thank you so much for this program today. We are super excited about it, and you are welcome to take it away.
Bridget, thank you so much. I'm actually exhausted listening to all of that. Um, first of all, thank you to all of our attendees from all four corners of the country and the middle. 125 people signed up for this. Several will watch on the recording afterwards. We've already got 60 participants in-house, plus those of us who are here. I want to jump right into our introductions. We've got four amazing panelists today. This is truly a blue ribbon panel. When it comes to that field of connecting famous people with famous brands, I don't know that we could have a better panel than we have today. And I'm going to introduce all four right now. Della Burns, first of all. Della is a senior PR practitioner. She's a consultant nowadays focused on healthcare and marketing. But from Oscar winners to Hall of Famers, Della's been involved in dozens of celebrity brand relationships throughout the years. She's a former senior executive at Edelman, at RF Binder, at Burson, at Havas, IMS, IBJI. She was a senior leader and executive level leader at all of these places, worked with brands including Baxter, Eli Lilly, Canadian Mist, Jim Beam, Southern Comfort, Kraft, Sun Pharma. And she's worked on celebrity programs with people like Terry Bradshaw, Chichi Rodriguez, Patty Duke, Brooks Robinson, who we were all talking about a little bit earlier here, Olympic gold medalist Kelly Clark, Branton Marsalis, Dr. J, and a personal favorite of ours, Marlon Fitzwater, who was a presidential spokesperson, was a wonderful human being. And then on a personal side, Dell is very active in the community. She's an executive committee member and board member for the Crazy Horse Memorial. Russ Spielman is executive vice president and partner at GSE Worldwide. Russ is one of the most respected agents in the country, focused on marketing and broadcasting. At GSE, he and his firm represent folks like Steve Young, Bo Jackson, Nick Mangold, Bryson DeChambeau, Emma Navarro, Jessica Pagulin, Jason Waddle, really a world-class group, and I know I'm missing many. He's done thousands of deals during his career, and he's on the board of the Little Saint Nick Foundation as well. Leslie Fogel joins us today from Zeno Group, where she's Senior Vice President, Celebrity and Entertainment Marketing Lead. And before that, she was at Burns Entertainment. So she's got this celebrity stuff in her, running in her veins. She's a specialist in pop culture and lifestyle. And she's worked with brands like Lenovo and Kraft Heinz, Newell Brands, which is also part of that Rubbermaid family, Unilever, ConAgra, Beam Suntory, Target, and work with talent, a really diverse range of talent. Folks like John Legend and Mindy Kaling, Joe Jonas, Queen Latifah. So, widely experienced, and again, not many better in our business. And certainly, last but certainly not least, Jim Palmer, who was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1990, been broadcasting since 1978, started broadcasting when he was still playing baseball. Uh, I'm very confident he's going to go into the Hall of Fame a second time into the broadcaster's wing. And I will tell you that were there a Hall of Fame for folks who endorse products, for brand ambassadors, Jim would be in there too. There are few people who have accomplished more off the field in that way than Jim has. I'll come back to that in a moment. He's been with the Orioles for 60 years. He's written 4 books, including my favorite, 9 Innings to Success, which I will admit I pushed him a little bit to write, but it's a fantastic book. Um, Going back to his work as a brand ambassador, Jim spent 19 years as the face of Jockey International. He was with Nutramax Labs for 16 years and spent 12 years as the face of the Money Store. So we'll come back. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Um, and the last thing, Jim was known as Cakes during his playing career, which of course led to a national relationship with IHOP, where he served as the spokesperson for National Pancake Day. So, first of all, to our panelists, thank you all very, very much for joining us today. And last note before we jump into things, let me just walk everybody kind of how we're going to do this. We got a few different parts to the program. We're going to do a couple of round robins of questions where I'll be asking questions for each of our panelists. Then we're going to have a couple of interactive poll questions that will come up after our first Q&A block with me. We'll introduce the first poll question. We'll put a QR code up on the screen. And if you can't shoot it, if you're watching on your phone, you'll be able to type in menti.com. You'll see a code. You can enter that code. And then you can participate. We're going to ask you a couple of questions today where we want your feedback. Later on in the session, we're going to have a crosstalk session where each of our panelists are asking one another questions. So that's great. I get to shut up for a little bit. So that we'll all be happy with that. And then we'll have a lightning round nearing the end. Quick questions, quick answers. And then finally, you all will have an opportunity to submit your questions. You can see at the bottom of your screen the Q&A box, and put questions in the Q&A box. It'll be much easier for us to see what your questions are and who they're for in that Q&A box. If you put them in the chat, I'll do what I can to monitor that during the session today, but I'll for sure see them if we're in the Q&A box. We'll get to as many of those as we can. So with that, we're going to get started right now. And I'm going to start off quickly with a question for Della. So Della, at the senior decision maker level, because you held executive level positions with all of those firms, and uh, you were quite literally at the tip of the spear in making these decisions. First of all, whether to have you've got your campaigns, and the first thing you've got to decide is is whether you're going to use a celebrity spokesperson or not. And if you could take us through a little bit, what are the key considerations at the senior decision maker level? What are the key things that drive that decision, first of all?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. So when I've worked with clients, and hopefully working with a spokesperson is not one of the first programs that you do with the client. Hopefully you've got a little bit of experience in other programming with them. And the first thing is you'd look at who can I get that would resonate with the target? But the bigger question is who is the target? It's not always who comes to mind immediately. It's not always the consumer. It might be the retailer. It might be the sales reps who you need to motivate further. There's any number of aspects of that. I've done programs in which you're not trying to reach out to, especially within healthcare, we're not reaching out to the patient, we're reaching out to the parent. I've done programs where we found who we were targeting, we thought was community behavioral health care workers. And in the end, who we found we were reaching were the siblings of those battling severe and persistent mental illness. So you start to really narrow it down. Who do we need to reach? What are we doing here? And that's really what you look to. And once you try to determine who is the target, who might resonate with this person, and then how can you best leverage their time? They're giving you their time for the day or a half day. What's going to make the most of this? Because in the end, you want results. And what are those results? It's not always sales. It's often just the awareness. It's developing the relationship, the grassroots relationships, maybe introducing a sales rep to someone more local. There's any number of perspectives that you take on that, but it is really finding out, number one, get to the root of who is the real target for this particular program and who's going to resonate with them.
Um, Thank you. Leslie, I'm going to move this kind of over to you because it's a pretty logical step. Dell is at that senior team leader position. You're internal as part of a great team at Zeno. What's your internal process? Executive team comes to you or your teammates, let's say, and what's your process look like in terms of you managing this relationship?
I think our biggest first step is determining what the ask is and what we really want from the celebrity. We come at it from the PR marketing agency, but a lot of times we're working on deals within a larger IAT. So really the first step is to wrap our hands around the ask. What do we need from PR? What do we need from production, from a social standpoint? And really get those terms in order, because when we're going out to agents like Russ and talking about price and interest and availability, we want to make sure that we have the full picture. It is always easier to go in with the kitchen sink and everything you could possibly want versus adding things on ad hoc. So that's kind of our biggest first step, is getting everyone on the IAT and the clients organized on what we're asking of the talent.
Great, thank you. Jim, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Typically, endorsement or brand ambassador relationships, more often than not, that's kind of a one and done thing. You go in, you're hired for a program, you do it. One of the uniquenesses of your career is the sheer length. And I know they didn't all start. I know Jockey started as kind of a one-off deal, but uh, I want to know, and I'd love for you to share with our audience, what's the secret? You've got three mammoth long-term relationships. That doesn't happen by accident. And the question is, how does it happen?
Well, actually, I have four because I played for the Orioles my whole career. Now, how did I stay in Baltimore from age 19 all the way to what, 38? I won games and I played on really good teams. And, I think Della touched on it. I did the ads for Jockey in 1977. I was one of nine guys, so very comfortable. I mean, I was the middle guy in the third row. I mean, they had basketball players. They had JoJo White. They had quarterbacks, I think Jim Hart and Kenny Anderson. They had Steve Carlton, who's, in the Hall of Fame, one of the great left-handed pitchers. They had hockey players. I just went up there. I used to do speaking for Sports Illustrated. Keith Morris said, hey, do you want to go do an underwear ad? And I said, well, it's a typical ball player. I said, what do they pay? They said, well, $1,000 more than a speech for IBM. And I said, I'm in. And then I showed up on time. I took the Metroliner from Baltimore to New York, $35 round trip. They had a luncheon, and they were shooting the ads during a luncheon. People were eating ham and cheese, pastrami on rye, and they threw me a glove so I feel comfortable because I had a very scanty pair of Alliance jockeys on. And the next year I was asked back. I did a sales meeting for them, so maybe they saw something there. To Della's point, 75% of women bought underwear. Men weren't, they were comfortable with somebody that played baseball. And the other thing, to Jockey, I mean, Bill Herman was their director of advertising. He understood that it's only 8 months, but it's really a year-round event. Because, I mean, we're talking, you guys are from Chicago. The Cubs are going to be very good, by the way, this year. But, if the Cubs don't win, everybody thinks, well, what are the Cubs going to do in 2025? Or if they win a World Series, will they be able to do it again or whatever? So baseball is really 12 months a year. And I became one of the family. And I had gone up to Kenosha, Wisconsin for a Holy Rosary sports dinner about a year before I started doing jockey. And I'm surprised I actually worked for him because they introduced Father Joseph and they booed him, and then I go, oh, it's kind of a hostile audience. But anyway, so and they had a mafia table up front. Every time they get up, everybody else got up. So again, it was just something that I had no idea. It started out with a photo shoot. They had one of the great photographers, Harold Krieger, who did all the life and look covers. So and when I saw the shots they did it when I was going to be the guy, I'm going, do I really look that good? And that's before I think they could do AI or do a lot of retouching. So it was just a great relationship, but it all started because they were looking for somebody that not only would, they could always get a model look better than me, but somebody that also would do store appearances. Baseball player, you walk out of the ballpark, you're selling yourself. You're trying to get people to come to the ballpark, and jockey was just a continuation of that.
So jockey was one example, but you had, forget the Orioles for a minute, but you had three really long-term relationships. And that to me is the part that's not accidental. I know one of the things you and I have talked about in the past, um, kind of the way you were raised in terms of the way you treat people, which is nice and normal and human. And that's an uncommon thing, unfortunately.
Well, I know Dell worked with Brooks Robinson, and we've had people and when you get to play for a team, and I played for a team that had the best winning percentage in baseball for 20 years. That means we went to 6 World Series, but we had really good teams pretty much every year. And one of them was Brooks Robinson, who was a Hall of Famer, passed away about 2 years ago. And you look around and you say, who do you want to be like? And for us, it was Brooks, because in the same amount of time you could be rude to somebody, Brooksy taught us you could be nice to somebody. And I think jockey understood that because I had learned from one of the best. And, again, when you do store appearances, you're selling underwear, you're selling yourself, you're selling baseball. And again, if you don't want to do it as a spokesperson, and I think that's an important thing, you have to understand what they expect. And if you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't be doing it, because money's not the most important thing.
We're going to come back to that. Russ, uh, what do you think? So, Russ is an agent, and again, one of the best. I've been in the business 40 years. I do not say this lightly. Russ is one of the best agents that I've ever come across. Don't turn red or anything. And I'm going to tell you the reason for that is he collaborates, and that makes all the difference in the world. But Russ, I want to know, what should brands consider when they're deciding who they want to hire, who they want to engage? What are the things that you think they should be looking for? And where does the agent or the rep kind of play into that equation?
Yeah, it's become, excuse me, it's become such a bigger part of the decision-making process now. Excuse me. Just because now this has evolved so much, and I'm old enough that I've been doing this for a while, where we started pre-cell phone, pre-social media. But I do find nowadays people on the buy side share with us that they truly consider who, and I'm not just saying this to pat myself on the back, but who are the agents? Who's involved helping this player execute these partnerships? Because now there's so many aspects of these partnerships that are reliant on the player of performing certain duties, that there's not someone sitting right next to them holding their hands. They're going to be required to do some user-generated, self-generated content. Everyone's getting smarter and more sophisticated, and they want to see analytics of these social posts. And now they're coming to us and they're saying, hey, I know you did this 6 months ago. I need these posts, or these posts. Some of them are really complicated. And I've been doing this a while. I do understand social media and everything like that. It's still hard. You know, you have to have a swipe up and you have to have this tag and you have to make sure that you change the label on that swipe up so it doesn't just say, like, I have one client who always wants to do as like an April Fool's joke, a post where it says like, you know, as if I sent it to him and it says insert brand here. I said, I think it's great. You think it's great. I don't think that your audience will understand. They're just going to think you're stupid. But I do find, and again, not just patting myself on the back, but I find that a lot of buyers are like, can you access this player's social media or are they handling it on their own? Because at this point, you're not doing a partnership without a social media element. And even more over, people are being eliminated from that conversation if they're not strong in social media. So they're not even sticking with Jim analogy here. You're not getting a bat in your hands if you're not on social. And then you have to get higher numbers, higher engagement, and things like that too.
I want to bounce back to Jim for just a moment. You know, Jim, as you look at deals, as deals come into us or you're looking at different things, number one, what do you look for? And what do you think celebrities in general should look for when they're evaluating deals or things that they want to, brands they want to consider working with?
Well, I mean, everybody here, I mean, Russ just kind of touched on it too. You need a good agent. You need an agent that knows who you are and also knows what the client or the buyer, as Russ said, are going to be asking for. Otherwise, if you're not willing to do the work, it's not going to be a positive outcome. And, again, it's funny, Bill Herman was the director of advertising. I mentioned that before, and maybe 12, 13 years in it, I said, guy, it's really great that, I get to work for you guys at Jockey. And he said, listen, we work together. And so here's your, director of advertising. I mean, I didn't really have an agent back there. I did the Money Store ads because I went out to speak at a luncheon. The Money Store was the largest employer other than the state of California and Sacramento, and they were having a luncheon to try to get people to hire people with disabilities. And I spoke at the luncheon, and Mark Turtletop, who was the son of the guy, his dad had started it, said, hey, can you stay over for breakfast? And it was the most lucrative thing that I did. And they went from, I don't know, $2 billion to about $8 or $9 billion. They were sold to Wachovia Bank for, over $2 billion. And they were long days and all that. But I guess they liked what I did. I understood, when I'd go out to California to shoot the ads in Sacramento. I'd say, can we start early? He said, oh no, union starts at 9. Well, that's midday if you're on the Eastern time zone. So we'd shoot to 9 or 10 at night. And I guess they understood that I was willing to do that. But then again, I think the same thing, Jockey, and it's funny when I did the ads, the first deal I had with Jockey after the actual photo shoots was what I do 20, 25 appearances a year in department stores. And what they were talking about, are the buyers going to be good? Are the department stores going to like you? Are the salespeople and all that? And I think, it was a natural in the sense that I was a baseball player. I once played at the Bob Hope, and I wrote out The Last Day with Joe Pesci, the actor, and I mean, one of the great guys at all. And we go to the front door and he doesn't have his money clip. That's how you get in the door. And the woman won't let him in. And I said, Joe, well, we'll go around. He go, oh no, I can't do that. And I said, wait a minute. I'm a baseball player. There's no snipers out here. Come on, just follow me. And the sea departed and we went in and, people were saying, can we get your autograph? I said, listen, we have a tea time. I'll be glad to sign afterwards. Now, I don't know if Joe did, but the point is, it's not that hard to beat people. And again, once you have that relationship with your agent and he knows who you are and he knows what they want, you got a pretty good chance of having some success in your whatever you're trying to do.
Or she nowadays.
Yeah, well, no, yeah.
Leslie, how's the vetting process evolved? Because we know that not every celebrity is created equal, and it's hard work and important work making sure that everything is right. How has the vetting process evolved on your end of the business?
Yeah, I mean, I will say in the past few years, especially, it's evolved quite a bit. I think we used to just kind of look like, does this person have upcoming projects? Have they been covered in the media? And if everyone kind of felt good about it, we would proceed. And now we put a lot more rigor into that. Especially from like a social perspective, I think we now do what we call a risk analysis, where we are combing through all of the talent social posts from the past 2 to 3 years to make sure they didn't say anything that the brand would find controversial or talk about working with a competitive product. So we go really deep to make sure that there's no skeletons that are going to come out during the term of the partnership. We also do a lot of media vetting and making sure that if we are going to partner with this talent, are our media contacts going to care to speak with them and cover the partnership? So it's evolved quite a bit. We also go really deep on their audience demographics from their social perspective. So to Della's point, who's our customer? And we look at the back end analytics to make sure that that truly aligns with who the brand is trying to target, and that they have good engagement, and their followers aren't full of bots. So we're checking it from all ends.
Yeah, it's an exhaustive thing. Russ, from the agent's point of view, I wonder if you can give us your thoughts on what's the foundation of a great relationship between talent and brand? What are those pillars that have to
I
be?
mean, it's common goals. It really is. What are you hoping to accomplish, and do our interests align? We sit with our clients at the beginning of the relationship and throughout the relationship. And what are the things that you want to accomplish? How do you want to leverage the platform and the opportunity that your particular sport provides you? So we have a little bit of understanding right from day one. Some people, and it's not for me to decide, but it's the typical, is it money? Is it ego? Is it post-career opportunities? Is it philanthropy? Or is it a combination of all of those? So getting an understanding, or do you want to just stay close to home? Are these types of things that we can understand in working with our clients? And then as you hear of these opportunities, or we're proactively seeking these opportunities, now we at least have some perspective of what we want to accomplish. And then we're pre-call selecting a little bit, and we're going through and doing some analysis and trying to understand. I had a call this morning with a client who basically, they said, when we figured it out, we're like, this person completely is opposite everything that our target audience was about. So we all agreed, like, this was a good call, nothing wrong with this, but we realized, when you dig into the social analytics and all that, we're not aligned. And we agreed, okay, great. Who else do you have? But it just comes from us. We have a questionnaire that we provide clients to tell us a little bit about yourself. We obviously, the world has changed now with social and all the Google and research and everything you can understand. Before we even start recruiting a client, we know a lot about them. But there's still more and more that we could dig into and we learn, and that just helps you a little bit. Our best estimate of what the brand is hoping to achieve. But then again, you have these calls and you start talking to what Della said earlier, like there's a variety of constituencies that all these brands are trying to appeal to. It's not just, B2C. Sometimes it's back end, and they're just worried about the retailers or the retail relationships and things that we're not even thinking about. So as we continue to have those conversations and learn, we might pivot and say, you know what, that person's not great. How about this person instead?
So, all of this, we always assume utopia when we go into these deals. Adela, I've got to ask you, what do you do when you're halfway through a deal and your client's objectives have changed? And I know you've been hit with that before.
Yeah. Yeah, so I assume you mean after you've got the contract in place with the celebrity, you've maybe done a couple of the events, and you've got the rest of the time mapped out for them, and they say, "Oh, totally new plan, new objectives." Well, first off, pencils down, everybody stop. You get a feel for what the new objective is, and what's also key, because you don't want to lose too much money, because in some ways you are losing money because you already put all this time and planning into other things. You take a look at what the brand already has on the agenda with their other programming. Are they involved in any annual meetings? Are they going to be at some trade shows? Are they doing any promotions in certain markets? Can we perhaps bring our celebrity into that? Can we use them in some way? Does that work with the celebrity schedule? If none of that works, then you go back to the celebrity through their agent and you say, okay, we're not doing such and such anymore. What's now their time availability between now and then? And what can we work in? It might get down to, okay, if the celebrity has a half day on XYZ day, a day that we can't use, maybe we ask them to make personal phone calls to this dozen people and here's your script. Maybe, I mean, but you've already got them. You're not backing out of that contract. Figure out how you can now use them that's going to achieve those goals for the client.
And I think this speaks so much to what each of you have said, and it really does come down to the value of the relationships. You know, uh, these can't be transactional because we all bump into things that force us to pivot, and if you're going to pivot effectively as a team, and Jim mentioned that, you're either part of the team or you're not. That all comes down to the relationships. We're gonna shift a little bit right now, and we're going to take a few minutes to take a look at our first interactive poll question. So first of all, while they're getting this up on the screen for us, uh, I'm going to encourage everybody, grab your cell phones if you're watching on your computer. Grab your cell phones, shoot the QR code that will take you right up to the screen. And in a moment, or if you're on your phone, maybe on your computer, I don't know which, but if you want, you can type in menti.com, menti.com, and enter that code 6706 7849. That will also give you access to our poll questions. So we're going to have this up here for about a minute, and then we'll show you our first poll question. You're going to get to interact, and we're going to see what your responses are. And yeah, so while we're waiting for that, I just want to remind everybody, continue to use that chat box to connect with one another. Uh, we've got space in the Q&A box, so come up with some really great questions for our panelists and throw them into the Q&A box. So our first question here is, I want you to give us your vision of the yet to be done. What's that perfect PR fit for celebrity and brand that we haven't seen yet? So the format, if you'll just type in the celebrity's name, it might be Jim Palmer and Wrangler. I don't know. Jim Palmer and jockey, whatever, whoever you'd like to see. But give us your responses. What celebrity and brand? In fact, that's the format. Celebrity name plus the brand name. And then you've got a minute to do this. And then we'll see the word cloud responses that'll pop right up onto the screen. So you can see there's a counter there going on the bottom right. There we go, Bo Jackson and Bojangles. Wait, doesn't that exist? More Martha and Snoop, love it. I don't know, are we snooped out? I'm not sure. Keep them coming, Carrie Underwood and Ford. Keep sending them in. Billie Eilish and Zenny. Mark Cuban and Yahoo. Timothy Chalamet and AMC. Okay. You mean the car? I don't think he'll fit into a Pacer. Oh, wait, I'm dating myself.
Yes, very much so.
Andy Carlisle and Subaru. Okay. All right, so we picked up some of them. Interesting. And I don't know. Kai, are we done with the responses?
The responses have closed.
Okay. So thank you for everybody who did participate. I'm sure we got more than 7 responses, but we're going to get back on track here with a few more questions. And again, please come up with your own questions, put them into the Q&A box on the bottom of the screen. I know y'all are super active in the chat right now, but we're going to continue on. So, Russ, I'm going to come back to you. But as a talent marketer, are there specific things that you look for from brands?
We're not recording this, right? We just want money.
Yeah, right.
No. Look, I think look, longevity are great things. It's hard to start a 10-year partnership without starting with one. But we look for, can we help each other amplify our message? Yes, we love partnerships. We love being financially compensated, but are you going to help amplify our clients' visibility and notoriety too? Or are we going to help each other out? Like, it's really awful when you do these great deals and sometimes they never see the light of day. I mean, I had a client fly from the beach house in Delaware all the way to LA, shot an entire commercial, and for whatever reason they cut it. Or I had another two clients this year shot what was presented as a Super Bowl commercial. We presented it to the clients as, you're going to be on a Super Bowl commercial. Variety of reasons, not their fault. It was a very complex commercial. They ended up not putting it on the Super Bowl. They still got paid. Everybody was happy, but you know what? You wanted to be on a Super Bowl commercial. It's a badge of honor. So, we look for, how are you going to help amplify this? Is this going to be a large, enduring campaign? The top of the mountain, as we say, has changed a lot over time. And it used to always be, I need a national TV commercial. National TV commercials are still great, but there's a lot of really cool, impactful social campaigns, digital campaigns, and things we're doing on different platforms that you just can't say that national TV is the top of the mountain anymore. So,
let's put full-blown PR into that equation as well. A lot of folks always think about advertising, but the fact is 80+% of the work out there is PR driven. It's not ad driven, it's PR
yeah,
driven. Della, I asked Russ earlier about the role that the agent plays in the process. And I want to flip that around a little bit and ask you about the role that agency leadership plays in this process, in this decision making, uh, not just in terms of driving like what the talent related decisions are, but in terms of shaping that decision making process. Where does the agency leadership fit in versus or in tandem with brand leadership?
Sure. Well, sometimes you have to explain to them why it's a good fit, why this individual whomever you're working with, whether it's Russ or a celebrity broker such as yourself, Rick, the candidates that you brought forward, you have to explain to them why it's a good fit and what the options are. You're kind of managing expectations. And then as the program moves forward, you're constantly managing expectations. And an example I'll give is we had a program, we were bringing the client and the spokesperson, who was Len Dawson, NFL Hall of Famer, star of Super Bowl #5, as we used to say. We had him in Tampa with, what was that? Was that 3? Did you have that?
Yeah, it was 4, but that's all right.
4 or 5, who knows? Anyhow,
All the same.
we had him in Tampa, and we already had him booked that evening, and we had like 5 doctors with him, giving a big presentation. We had several thousand people coming to this event, but we had him all day. So we booked him some media in the morning, and then we had the rest of the day. What are we going to do? And okay, so we figured he needs some time to rest. He's going to work in that net with the clients. Like, we've got him. We got to keep him busy. So it's that day. We got to find something for him to do. So you are jumping on the phone. What's near us? What's near Tampa? Well, there's a Sun City there. I call Sun City. I talked to the community development person there saying, do you ever do events? Blah, blah, blah. I said, I've got Len Dawson. I can come this afternoon. Blah, blah. And she said, yeah, bring him. We can get people to come. I said, but how many people can you get to come? And I thought, pie in the sky. So can you get 100? She goes, I can get 300 to 500. Would that work for you? Well, perfect, because he was talking about prostate cancer, and that's our key audience. So, I mean, it's constantly managing expectations. Thankfully, Len was great. He was happy to do it. But yeah, it's the constant management of not only what goes on with what the client expects, but also how you can properly serve the celebrity who entered into this contract with you, so that you're doing everything they expect as well.
I want to shift back over to Jim. Thank you, Della. Jim, we looked earlier, the success of your career on not one, not two, but three different levels in terms of your play on the field, your play behind the mic, and your play as a brand ambassador. Uh, I mentioned earlier that none of that stuff happens by accident. And I want you to share a little bit your thoughts on preparation, because I know that you prepare the same way for each one of these jobs as you did for your original career on the field. And I wonder if you talk a little bit about that.
Well, you got to know about, who you're talking to or who you're representing, or, and then obviously what do they want. Um, when I was 18, making, most you can make was $500 a month, and you $414 after taxes. And my first day in professional baseball were in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and Cal Ripken's dad, Cal Ripken Sr., says, listen, this is what we're going to do. He said, number one, the only reason we're here is, and he pointed to the empty stands because we're about 9 o'clock in the morning for a 1 o'clock game. He goes, that's the reason we're coming. Number two, he said, we're never going to let anybody outwork us. Number three, we're going to come here and try to get a little bit better every day. Number four, we're going to be great teammates because we all want to go to the next level. And probably the most important thing, hey, there are no such things as shortcuts, because most people in life want to take shortcuts. So, you look at that and then you start thinking, okay, if I'm going to work for a company, what are they about? I kind of embarrassed to say, but I got dandruff in 1983 for Tegrin for about 2 days when I shot the commercial, but it was for $100,000. So I kind of sold out in a way. I had to put Head and Shoulders off to the left because I've been using that for 30 or 40 years. And I'm going, okay, well, I'm sorry. But anyway, so you do things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're looking for brands that you feel comfortable with, that, jockey, I had no problem with. Number one, because when they asked me for the ad, 8 other players did it. And also my mom had bought jockey from whenever I was a kid. So I don't know what it is to put on a pair of Hanes underwear. Or, Howard Cosell, who I ended up working at ABC, was up on a wing with this toupee flapping going, fruit of the loom, fruit of the loom, and all that. So I only knew one company. So again, I just think you have to feel comfortable. But what Della said was also that you don't get a whole lot of Lenny Dawsons that are willing to do the things you can be. Well, why was he a Super Bowl winner at quarterback? Because he could improvise and he was willing to go along with the stuff. So it's just a connection. And, I think still at the end of the day, if you're going to represent a brand, what do they want from you? And then you have to, as Russ said, hey, it's sometimes about the money, but it's also about, do you really want to commit? Because you're in Chicago, and I'm at a golf thing one day, and I'm sitting across from Mike Ditka. And when you get a chance to sit across from Coach Ditka, but he was also a tight end that's in the Football Hall of Fame. I said, how do you motivate people? And he goes, Jim, anybody can make a commitment, but can you keep it? He said, how willing are you to dot all the I's and cross the T's? And he said, that's what I asked of all my players. And he said, that's what I asked of myself when I played. So, you try to do that. And then if you're going to, you want to know all you can. I remember Greg Maddux once said, he won 355 games, one of the great pitchers of all time. He says, when I retire, he goes, I want to do what you and Don Sutton do. Just play golf all day long and come to the ballpark and do baseball games. I said, Greg, I want to make $16 million a year, because the most I ever made was 575, So I said, that's not the way it works. So again, anytime you pick a brand, you got to ask them what they want, and then you have to be willing to do it. And otherwise, you're never going to have a symbiotic relationship. It just doesn't work.
Leslie, how do you measure success? How do your clients measure success? I mean, you heard what everybody else has said. We all know there's so much that goes into it. At the end of the day, you still got to count.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, sales is always the indicator that clients care about. Did the product that you're promoting, did it sell? That's always, sometimes with earned media and PR campaigns, that can be harder to show that direct correlation. So if not sales, we also look at things like earned media coverage. Obviously, we're all in PR. Social engagement is huge. Did we gain a lot of social followers? Did the post that the talent posted get a lot of interaction? And then also we do separate kind of research on our own sometimes of, did the brand get an awareness lift? Did they increase market share? So a lot of times it's looking at all of those things together to determine if a campaign was successful.
Thank you. I think right now actually would be a great time. Well, no, I'm going to come back to Leslie for one more question, and then we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at our next poll question, our next Menti poll. So, kind of scattering around a little bit, we talked a little bit about advertising and whatnot, and we've all seen uh, contracts and contract writers from time to time that get some funky attention. Uh, Leslie, have you encountered some odd, or what are the more fun contract writers
Yeah,
that you
I
come?
love looking at celebrity writers. I think it's hilarious. And I think the thing that kills me the most about it is we get these writers of 20 to 30 items that someone only wants the red Australian licorice from Trader Joe's, or I once had a talent who was requiring, a full hot roast chicken dinner with vegetables and mashed potatoes and all this stuff. So we have teams running around to get all these crazy things. And I would say 95% of the time it is all untouched at the end of the day. So that's what really kills me about riders.
It's yeah, you're absolutely right. But it was there.
Yeah.
It was there. I once got yelled at. They probably shouldn't have say it, but by Bill Cosby, because we had the audacity. Della, you probably remember this. This was for TAP. We had the audacity to pick him up in a stretch limousine, and his rider apparently said he was to be picked up in a town car, and or a sedan, only in a
Over
sedan.
delivered.
We over delivered, and that wasn't.
Well,
He didn't
now we
care.
know why he was trying to fly under the radar.
I guess we do. We do. But Kai, let's go right into our next poll question here. And here's a multiple choice one. Again, use the QR code and zap in on that. And we're going to jump a little bit out of order and do this, frankly, because we've got a lot of really great questions in the Q&A box, and I want to make sure that we can get to at least some of those. So we'll take a look at this. And this, our first question, we want you to match the celebrity with their quirky contract riders. So this is going to be multiple choice. And there are, I think, 3 of them. So no brown M&Ms in the bowl or the deal's off. Was that Beyonce? Was that Van Halen or Mariah Carey? You got about 20 seconds left to respond. It's a pretty knowledgeable crowd, I'd say we have here. 10 seconds more to connect with us on this. Okay, the response is done. The winner is Van Halen, or at least our response winner is Van Halen. And Van Halen happened to be the correct answer. And here, and by the way, he didn't do it because he cared about brown M&Ms, but he felt that if it turned out that way, it meant somebody actually took the time to read his contract. Marlboro Lights and only the best European beers, please. Tom Selleck, Joe Jonas, or Adele.
I actually have my clients are not crazy with the riders like the Hollywood people, and I always thought I could just do it to be self-serving or go like, help my personal clothing collection or food shopping. Because the clients are like, it's fine, just some healthy stuff. That's it. Or some junk, some candy and stuff. But Like, oh, we ought to just build up the, DVD collection or whatever.
Hey, I think, the little more leverage now with the athlete side, they could pull it off, but it's
Yeah.
definitely more Hollywood driven. All right, so we're a little off base on this one. Are we done with the responses? I can't tell. Responding's off. The winner on this is actually Adele.
Really?
And the answer is yes, because she's just that cool.
So if I do that, my voice will sound like hers, or
It'll sound, or mine, one or the other.
but-
Okay, all white, everything. Drapes, flowers, candles, tablecloths, just not in the ice. That needs to be blue. Is it Lady Gaga? Is it Jennifer Lopez? Or is it pink? You never know. You got 30 seconds on this one. Okay. And our correct answer here is yes. It's Jennifer Lopez. So we got that right. Thank you. It's all good. Oh, no, one more. Look at that. One more. Titanium straws and alkaline water at exactly 69.8 degrees, not 70. Don't mess that up. Beyonce, Paul McCartney, or Rihanna? Few more seconds left to respond. I think we've got our responses though. And yes, the answer is Beyonce. So there you go. Everybody's got there's a little quirkiness going on there. That's all I can say. So thank you to everybody who participated. Hopefully you found that to be a little fun. We're going to go right into part of our program called Crosstalk. We're going to start off. I know, Della, you've got a question for Jim.
I do. Jim, I'm curious. I know you've had these long-term relationships with so many brands. Has there ever been a point at which you've looked at a plan that they've given you and you think you have some ideas on how you can work with them on some of these events or interviews in which you think it could be a little bit better and more strategic for them? Have you ever offered that kind of input and have they been open to it?
No, when I worked for Jockey, I was comfortable the way the underwear fit. But when we did the store appearances, I would notice, and we did them all over the country, and they'd be, I mean, sometimes because there was a mix of people, women and baseball fans, there'd be 300 or 400 people there. And I told them, so they would cut the line off and people would not get an autograph. So that happened once. And I said, well, wait a minute, we can't let that happen. I said, I'm not saying that, because after I did the autograph thing, I usually went to lunch with the buyers and, I would already done radio, TV in the morning, may have some other stuff in the afternoon, because again, it was we're talking about Len Dawson, an all-purpose day. That's what I did for Jockey. So I said, listen, cut the line, but let people know that the line is only going to go another half, because you can't have, well, no, it's not signing anymore, because again, you don't want ill will. So that's about the only thing that I ever, I told Jockey. And, once again, they said, we work together. And I said, if we're going to work together, we don't want to get anybody that's upset.
Cool.
Thank
Thank you.
Russ.
Della, you've worked with athletes, you work with celebrities. What would you say are some of the similarities, and what would you say are some of the dissimilarities between working with those people from two different worlds?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, athletes are team players, and in many ways, they go into their career knowing that there are time limits on how long they'll be active in their career, and they want to build a relationship for the long term past the career. Celebrities, if you get a celebrity who, like for instance, worked on a program with Patty Duke. Now she won her Oscar when she was a child actress, right? So I got her years after the Patty Duke show, but she was fantastic to work with because she wanted to keep acting. And as we all know, there's not a lot of acting roles for older women at that point, which she was. So she was willing to do it. But if you get a celebrity who's kind of at the height, they kind of think they're always going to be at the height. And there's a lot of demands and there's not a lot of flexibility. But have not seen that much with athletes though. Athletes, again, they're team players, and they want to make the day work. So those are kind of the similarities and dissimilarities that I've seen, Russ.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Yes, I have a question for Russ. Russ, what is your agency's process for recruiting players that you want to represent? How do you go about that?
I think for us, at this point, everything is really about long term. Can this player be a long term player in their particular sport? While everyone sees all the money that is being thrown at the players, there's a tremendous amount of expenditure in acquiring players, recruiting, signing, helping them get to the draft or become professional athletes, all the other things that we have to do as an agency that we're really trying to look at. Can this person be a 10-year pro or something like that? It's really gotten to the point of like, who's going to make it past their first contract, because it's some of these things, it's so expensive. There's so many things that come with athletes nowadays that you really have to make it even on the second contract. So we're really looking for long term. And then of course everything that you would expect too, like, is this a good person? Do they have that mindset? Are they willing to work? I personally work on the marketing side. So if you're just going to say I have no interest in marketing, I'm not going to have as much interest in you as a client. That's how I make money for myself and for the agency.
Jim, I know you've
Sorry,
got
one last.
Yeah.
Can we get there's a lot of players out there. Can we even get an audience with that player? There's a lot of people trying to get into this business now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jim?
Oh, yes. What am I doing? To Leslie. So, in baseball, if you have a true superstar, they call him a five-tool player. You can hit for average, you can hit for power, you great defensively, you can run, and you can throw. Have you ever had a client like that?
A celeb talent that we've worked with like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely times when all the stars align and they're an authentic fit for your campaign. They're a pleasure to work with. They have a good team around them and people who are staying on track of them to do the deliverables, and they get great results. So I think when all of those come together, it's someone that you definitely keep going back to.
These are great questions. So I want to make sure we've got about 10 questions that are submitted from our audience, our attendees. I want to make sure we can at least get to some of them. So Cami is asking us, how do you set up a budget as a percentage of the whole marketing budget for celebrities? Adela, I'm going to toss that one out to you, because you've been very central to that whole budget process.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, I don't know that we always look at it in terms of a percentage of the larger budget, because sometimes it is the biggest part of that budget, but it's going to deliver the most in the end. So in your mind, you have to kind of work with the client and figure out, okay, how much are you comfortable spending? Because that's certainly going to limit who you can talk to. Let's see what you're comfortable, because that's where you start with. And maybe after that first contract working with someone in future years, they might think, well, the person we have was good, I want to add more days. If I can't get them, I want someone similar. Or maybe they'll say they were great, but now I want to go for this level. And then you expand it the next year. But you don't always start off looking at that celebrity endorsement relationship as being a percentage. You really kind of got to feel it out and get the client's feel as to what they're comfortable spending.
I'm going to throw this next one at Russ. Michelle wants to know, have you seen a shift from celebrity endorsements to influencer partnerships?
Sadly, I have. I've seen a significant shift that we literally just hired last week a head of digital who is basically going to be spearheading our influencer aspect of our business. There's definitely a significant shift. We've been aware of it, but it's a constant challenge that we are faced with, and we're trying to figure it out. Is, as the players make more and more money, how do we as an agency help them do these things in a scale way? Because, to go out and help them shoot content in all across the country in all these remote markets and college towns, it's really hard to do. But there is a tremendous shift. I mean, if you saw it Super Bowl, I'd say it's almost like 50-50 now. The NFL, you're on Media Row. It's not even Radio Row anymore. It's Media Row. And it's right there in the name because it's all these digital, podcasts and all these different things. So we're trying to shift with the times, and we're figuring out freelancers around the country to help gather and produce content. It's a huge seismic shift.
Jim, do you have any advice for charities? We've got some nonprofits on with us today. I didn't mention it during your bio, and I really should have. You've been as active in the community as anybody I've ever known, having been involved for many years with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and of course, more recently, um, as the condition relates to your son Spencer, yours and Susan's son Spencer, the
Autism.
yeah, thank you. Autism related causes, autism awareness programs. But what advice do you have for charities that are looking to partner with sports celebrities? And they're not usually working with agency type budgets.
I mean, again, you have to have somebody. I mean, you almost you don't want to be desperate because you want to make an impact. This is 25th anniversary of BJ Surhoff, who was a terrific player, got over 2,300 hits. He's had a Pathfinders for Autism for 25 years. They've helped 231,000 people in Baltimore and or the Maryland area. One out of every 27 kids now has autism in Maryland. So it's a very worthwhile thing. And, BJ just started it on his own. So again, if you're a charity, you need to get somebody that, in my case, when cystic fibrosis, I had a guy that worked for Rouse Corporation. My two girls were healthy. He had a boy and a girl that had cystic fibrosis. The lifespan was like 13 years old back there, back in the 70s. So not only did I do it in Maryland, then I became the national sports chairman. We did some ads and things like that. So, you make a difference in your life. And I think, at least for most organizations, first, when I got to Baltimore, I was 19 years old. They said, if you're going to live in this community, you should become part of it. So you need to find somebody that's willing to do that. And I'm not saying you want to do it with a rookie or somebody like that, because everybody's thinking, well, how much should endorsements young players get in? Establish yourself as a young player. And I think if you're a charity, look for somebody that's been in the community. As Russ said, maybe he's going to be there. Now with free agency, maybe you get a third-year player because at least be there for another 3 years in baseball, and then hope that he's going to make a big difference. And like the Orioles, and I can only speak for them because I still broadcast for them. They're very good in the social media aspect of doing things that are going not only to help the player but also help the charities and help the community.
Leslie, so there's a great question here, but what are some of the things that brands should be asking for in these relationships, and also what should be just off the table? Brand comes to you and says, "Oh, we want this," and immediately that's just, you shut it down.
Off the table. That's a good question.
Is anything off the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything has a price, is what I would say. But I think, some of the things that we always tell brands to throw in that they're maybe not thinking about outside of a media day or a production day is having this talent do a shout out to your employees, like something that would go a long way, or to your retail partners. Those kind of personal touches that they can share internally within their networks, I think go a long way and are such a low lift for talent. We always recommend building that type of stuff in just to build the goodwill.
I've got a follow-up question here for you from Michelle. Is there someone in your team solely focused on partnerships and branding? And for those looking to break into the field, what are the key skills and experiences that you'd recommend they build?
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole sports and entertainment department here at Zeno that is solely focused on partnerships of this nature. And I think to break into it, you just gotta start working, at your agency, raise your hand and say, I'm really interested in working on the campaigns that involve talent. So you can kind of see the ins and outs. And if this is something you want to do, because people always say, oh, wow, your job sounds so cool. And I'm like, sure. But a lot of it is, bugging agents and dealing with lawyers and contracts. And so it's not as glamorous as it sounds. And so you got to see if that's something you really want to do.
Della, a question came up. Let's talk a little bit more about what to expect from the celebrity on social media. And what about those that aren't that active on social? Does it preclude them from doing things?
If they're not that active on social and they're willing to get involved with the brand's social and give an approval, let them see what we're going to post, what we're going to say, and they would have right of first refusal. You can't, no, don't say this. I don't want that coming from my voice or whatever. You could do that. But yeah, we do look, generally speaking, for how active they are on social media. That's one of their selling points, as Russ was saying earlier, and same with Leslie, I believe, that we do look for that. And it's not a problem. Again, if they're willing to let us manage it for them, or if they'll let us use their name under the brand's social media, that's fine.
Chris Martin wants to know, Chris, by the way, I'll share with the rest of you, who's a 4-time Emmy Award winner. So not just any Chris Martin, not that Chris Martin, but our Chris Martin. Everybody talks about ROI, which is so difficult to pin down. What do you tell brands about how they can justify the expense of the celebrity, notwithstanding the ROI that's readily apparent? Leslie, I'm going to toss that one back at you, and Russ maybe as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we often share with our clients who are looking to dip their toe into celebrity is past case studies for our other brands and other clients where it really worked and it really made the difference. So I know I was talking about how we can pull those kind of brand awareness and lift studies and showcase the results. So I think just showing, hey, here's what a celeb did for another campaign, and we could bring this same sort of buzz to yours, it really helps them wrap their heads around it.
I mean,
Russ,
I miss the days when they made the irresponsible decisions just because they were a fan of a particular
I
athlete.
know.
Those were great, but
Yeah.
I mean, we try to do case studies and using social analytics. I mean, some of it, look, our pitch is a part of it is, look, this is the best way. You're going to have this team partnership. This is the best way to amplify a team partnership. Or if it's not a team partner, is there a better way to ambush a team partner than using one of the most high profile players? So you could invest a fraction of what it would cost you for team and league marks and logos and official status using that player, that golfer, that tennis player, that, someone to just live, breathe, and embody your message. So that's what we're always going to pitch that. But it's the tangible measurables are getting a lot bigger part of our industry now, for sure.
I know it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Jim, last question today is for you. Should PR folks approach the agent first or the celebrity first? You know what my answer is going to be, but you go ahead.
Should PR? Oh, that's a pretty good question. I think you
Oh,
need
that was from Patrick.
you got to go to an agent first, because again, it goes back to what we talked about early on. The reason I signed with the Orioles because my parents said I was a year before the draft. And then 12 teams call the next day. I think they'll be the best organization. So, best winning percentage, 6 World Series later. And if you get a good agent, you always want to talk to them. And, when I first started negotiating some of my baseball contracts, it's a lot easier to have an agent tell them, you know what, he needs to make this or whatever, because a lot of times you're embarrassed to tell them how good you are or how good you think you are. I don't think agents have a problem doing that, as you know.
I do know. Thank you very much. Listen, this has been spectacular. I'm going to turn it over in just a moment to Bridget for a few closing remarks. Number one, thank you to our panelists. I said it before, it's a blue ribbon panel, and I thoroughly believe that. I want to thank all of you for joining us. I also want to say thank you to everybody who attended today and to those of you who are going to watch the recording later. Really appreciate it. We had too many questions for us to get to. If you email me those questions, I'll make sure they get distributed. I'm at rick.bachrach, BACHRACH at celebrityfocus.com. And I want to thank you to PRSA Chicago for hosting us today. And with that, Bridget, take it away. You have to unmute yourself, but then take it away.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you, Della, Russ, Leslie, Jim, and of course, our esteemed moderator, Rick, as well. What an amazing amount of information. I hope everyone else's notebook is as full of notes as mine is, because I truly believe that this could be some game-changing, career-changing information for some folks. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And of course, thank you to Celebrity Focus for being our webinar sponsor. Thank you to our chapter sponsors. Again, the Grossman Group, Edelman, MSL, Notified, Sino, For Media Group, Celebrity Focus, Current Global, News Exposure, DePaul University College of Comms, and Manny's. We really, really appreciate the support. And for a last reminder to join PRSA Chicago, that is how you get access to amazing events like this one today, as well as resources for communications professionals in our area. And you can keep up with us by visiting prsachicago.com. But on that note, thank you again to everyone who joined us today. Thank you for all your amazing questions. We look forward to seeing you at the next PRSA Chicago event on March 26th. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, and please enjoy the rest of your day.